Susan's actually here.
Okay.
I may not want to discuss that.
Margaret out, number 9. Let's go ahead and call the regular scheduled capital investments committee meeting scheduled for Thursday, July the 12th to order. The second item on the agenda is approved minutes of June 14th, 2012. I hope everyone's had a chance to look over those. Any corrections, deletions to that? If not, I'll entertain a motion.
So moved.
Second.
Proper motion second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 3, consideration of resolution 2012-39, a resolution declaring certain property on Liberty Pike as surplus property. Mr. Parker.
This is a piece of property that we had to purchase because it was a remnant, unusable remnant when we bought the right-of-way for Liberty Pike many years ago. It is bordered on two sides by the factory property and, of course, the right-of-way of Liberty Pike for the other side. And it is really of no value to the city of Franklin. There are no utilities in this particular piece of property. There's a drainage that crosses it, but it's actually part of the drainage system for the factory. We do have a couple of the gentlemen from the factory here if they would like to say something. But this resolution has been written to declare the property surplus and to authorize myself and the city administrator to negotiate for the sale of the property to the factory. And we've looked at, we're actually looking at that and going back, and we pulled the appraisal for the properties when we, or the cost of the properties when we purchased it, and we've looked at that per square foot cost, and that's what we were recommending that we would use for that, and I don't remember exactly what that was. But anyway, that's where we are.
Around $1,500.
Yes.
It says 15,
Approximately,
16.
yeah.
Well, it is right here. It's in the memo. That's what happens when you run for a while.
Is the factory just going to use it for green space? I would like to hear maybe what.
The factory's not going to use it for anything other than what it's being used for right now, which is grass.
Okay.
It's just to clean up their boundaries, not to have this intrusion of other properties into their existing properties. So, but at least that's my understanding. There's no change to take place. It's just to square up the rectify all the property boundaries.
Any other questions?
I move for approval.
Oh, Mike.
I don't have a question about this in particular, but I wish that we make a practice that anytime we're dealing with a piece of property, that we would show the layout in a map or sketch or something, so we know exactly where it was.
Yeah, we
So
can do that.
going forward,
We can do that.
we'll do that.
Just didn't get in.
Motion?
Yes.
Second.
Second. Proper motion second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 4, consideration of sanitary sewer availability request for Susan Smith for property on Clovercroft Road, map 79, parcel 57.03. Mr. Parker, you're up again.
This is a piece of property that, excuse me, recently we did grant one single-family unit equivalents sanitary sewer availability. That we do have a line that crosses the property, and it's within an easement, and they are asking to receive another single-family unit equivalent availability where they can subdivide.
My general understanding of it is she's not interested in annexation at this time, and she's looking to put 2 houses out there. She's been invited to the meeting. And I don't believe that Susan is out here today to answer questions that you may have.
Well, I'm certainly not particularly in favor of this. You know, we granted the one. I do not think that if we start doing this, we're going to do it every time somebody comes in and asks for 2. I'm not for it at all. I move. Is a motion and do you want to hear about? Do you want to talk about it?
Well, other than
You make your motion and still talk about
Well,
it.
I'll make the motion that we disapprove this request.
Proper motion's a second.
I'll go ahead and second, just so we can go ahead and discuss, because I too am reluctant, without any annexation plans, to create this second opportunity. And that's kind of where I am right now without her being here to give her side of it and her plans down the road. Maybe yesterday she didn't want to annex, maybe today she does, so I don't know.
Yeah,
But is this adjacent to annexed property?
it's adjacent to the city's
Yes.
current boundary, so yes, she could annex into it,
Okay,
to the city limits. And if she chooses to bring up the fact that she's willing to be annexed, we can bring it forward to see if
okay. My motion
other
stands.
changes.
My second statement.
Any other questions? Proper motion and a second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Request for the second sewer availability denied. Or motion, you will send it to the full board, or you want to send it to the consent agenda, or where are you going to go with that?
Since it's a decline,
Well, it can go
Yes, we
consent.
put it on
we just have
consent
to
as a-
Write it up as a
Somebody can
Write it
put
up
on.
as
denial,
consent.
yeah.
Denial. Item 5, consideration of water and sewer availability requests for the Carter's Creek Pike residential project located at 1845 Carter's Creek Pike, map 74, parcel 34. Mr. Parker, you're up again.
This is a development that is being proposed on this property, and they're asking for availability, and what we're looking at is we have one pump station. It is the Carter's Creek Pike Pump Station that this would actually flow to, but it's also within a drainage basin that we've been trying to take out pump stations. And just to give you a little history, we've already eliminated 2 pump stations in this drainage basin through, one was in the Franklin Green, and one was where Willow Springs is constructed or built. And this would be the other one, which is what we've tried to do, and what we're recommending is that there be a study paid for by the development for water and sewer, using our consultant, but they would pay for it to see, and also that they would come in and seek annexation.
The applicant is here. I would also like to say that is an estimated cost. No scope of services has been detailed to really narrow down what that cost would be. And the applicant's here if they'd like to come up and address the board or talk to the board.
Come on down.
Thank you, thank you.
As they're coming up, I would say that when we've done our sizing of sewers for this particular sub-basin, this area was included in that sizing for that sewer that was put in.
So let's say they get the study done, and the study would prove that what? They need,
Well, we'd be looking at, there's some off-site sewer that would have to be put in, and then also we'd have to be looking at the water, which is an extension of water, and that has to be studied to look at, can we adequately provide the pressures and the flows for fire, et cetera, and how we would possibly make looping for that to be a loop system versus a dead-end system.
so it's like a major infrastructure
It could be. It could be.
initiative for this development. Okay.
Thank you. My name's Kevin Gangwer. I'm with Civil Site Design Group, engineers representing the developer on this. And we've met with engineering quite a bit on this request. This development is in the county, adjacent to the city boundary. We would ask for annexation as part of the project if we could move forward. But it's only about 120 homes, and so doing such a significant influx of cash just to determine whether there even is sewer available or not is pretty difficult for the developer. We've done, with Paul's help, we've done our own kind of preliminary analysis. All of this area drains to the Willow Springs development, which goes on to the Franklin Green development, which then drains on down to the West Haven pump station. And what Dave just said was that they had sized that main line that goes from the north side of Franklin Green to the West Haven pump station. They've sized that line for the whole basin which we're in. So we've determined, based on our preliminary analysis, that the Willow Springs and the Franklin Green are, not only do they not have capacity, but they're already over capacity. And so we're interested in knowing and this is all new to Paul and Dave, by the way, they've not even heard us, because we just kind of talked about it a little while ago. We're pretty sure that, we're positive that there is no capacity in either of those two systems of 8-inch lines, and that the real capacity comes in the location where the Franklin Green Pump Station used to be, and they took it offline and extended a much larger line. So we're interested in kind of bypassing Willow Springs and Franklin Green Sewer. We only have to go through 2 properties to get there. So we would be interested in knowing, could they do a capacity analysis starting at the Franklin Green old pump station and heading on downstream? I think that would take a lot of scope out of the consultants. We just don't think there's any need for them to study that portion of it, at least on our behalf. So I'm curious if that would be an option.
We're downstream of the old Franklin Green Pump Station, we have the capacity. We know that for sure. So we'd be looking at what's in between is what we've got to look at. And without, actually, part of it is making sure that the mapping is correct with the size lines, because it was supposed to be bigger lines
Right.
put in there.
And we're
somewhere
pretty sure
along
there's
the way.
not, based on
So
what we
that's
see.
part of what the study would be. And then
So I guess
then
I'm
the
saying
other
that-
aspect of it, of the study would be, was if there's not, then how do we get to your development with the capacity available that we would need for it?
And we think we kind of already have that figured out. We would do a parallel line through open space instead of trying to tear up all the public streets to increase the existing line. So I guess our question is, we don't feel like a capacity analysis is necessary in Willow Springs because we're pretty positive there is no capacity. And so can we bypass that part of the analysis? And I think that would take their scope way down and take their fee down. It'd take their fee into a level that.
Well, what we were basing our recommendation on is that we would have our own consultant do the work and be paid for it. If they've done work already, there would be the possibility of looking at that, accepting it, submitting it, look at it, accept it or not, or have additional work by them done or whatever to see what would be best to do. So, and we're not approving an amount right now anyway. It's the concept of how we're going to do the study.
In the scope of services, we would really narrow down, share that with them, because they're going to be responsible for paying for it, and make sure we're all on the same page, and some type of agreement would be signed and understood
And
up
again,
front.
like I said, it may be that the consultant's engineer would do if you don't have a problem with it. Our preference is our own, but if there's already been work done, don't know that we wouldn't want to look at it and see what's there instead of redoing. But then the water, is a different issue, so.
Yeah, maybe we could table it that we could work together to figure out, what's the right way, what's the right analysis to be done.
I just think we want to be sure that we have
Absolutely.
a complete analysis.
Yes,
And
ma'am.
we want to be sure that the water and the sewer are available, and we don't want to bypass anything.
Right,
That
right.
we need to look at.
Right.
So what we need to do is we need to figure out how we're going to do this, and actually, I would assume that we're saying don't do availability until we get started with the annexation and all this stuff anyway. We can work with the consultant on how we're going to get these studies done, and then we come back to you.
So we just table this, not even.
Whatever comes first, the cart before the horse or whatever, but annexation has to be some request somewhere along the way, because
Yeah.
I don't think, I can tell you, 1/8 of the board is not gonna give you sewer availability for 156 units outside the city limits.
No, yeah, we intend for that and hope for that, so.
Okay.
So we just come back to y'all after we've worked out the.
We will get yes.
Capacity. Okay. All right, thank you so much for your time.
Thanks.
We just take no action at this point.
None of that's in the floodplain, is it?
Item 6, consideration of professional services agreement, City of Franklin contract number 2012-0114 with Neil Schaefer for the Battle Avenue Drainage Improvements Project in amount not to exceed cost of $46,500.
This is a budgeted item in the engineering, or stormwater budget. This is actually something that has been being looked at since before I was even the city engineer.
50 years.
And I'm sure Clyde can remember, we've talked about it over the years numerous times, and we just never got around to funding studies. There was a study done back in 78 or 6 or something like that. But anyway, that was a preliminary study. So that's what this is for. It is a budgeted item, and Neil Schaefer is who we've been working with as far as trying to get a project going as far as the study and design of what we need to do to fix drainage problems out there.
As far as
Where's
this,
the flooding? Is it near the little?
There's pocket flooding, there are low areas.
It's just
Where the creek go underneath?
before
The
that.
creek floods, but there's areas that are low that flood and that there is no drainage facilities to take the water out of.
It's in between the traffic signal and Columbia Avenue.
And there's several areas that actually do flooding, and that's what this is for.
as part of the scope of services, we kind of anticipated bringing something back to a public forum as different options on how to approach the drainage problem to be able to make a recommendation moving forward.
Can you
With the-
fix that? Can you really fix that?
Yes,
Yes.
got enough money, we can fix
Pipe
it.
deep enough, you can fix it.
The classic engineer response. I can fix it, how much money?
If you get a pipe deep enough, you can fix it. You're doing the 46.5, but we're not talking the $1.1 million
No.
That's correct.
construction and design. Okay. Mr. Skinner?
Yes, days and days after the flood in May of 2010, people there had water that was from 4 to 6 feet deep across multiple properties. These are properties on the south side of Battle, but the backyards are next to where that storage facility is. And there's a difference of 5-6 feet in what the level of their backyards are and this is. What I understand part of the problem was that they were supposed to have a sump pump operating over in the storage facility, but of course, at the critical time when it's supposed to work, it didn't.
Well, there is a pump in the storage facility detention pond that pumps it up to the drainage along Fair Street.
Yeah,
That goes
but-
into the drainage on Clemens.
But
So
when
that's
you
what
really
takes care
need
of
it
them
and it
on-
didn't work, people had basements and things flooded and first floors flooded on Battle Avenue. And eventually, I talked to Eric and we got Stormwater to come out with a diesel pump, and they pumped for the better part of 2 days to get the water.
Actually, what you had was a fire department out there pumping.
So
Oh,
this is something
really
that,
neat.
Yeah.
it really is
Really
needed.
It's been needed for.
Because the property owners themselves can't make a difference in this, so.
Move forward.
Second.
Proper motion, second. All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
For the $46,500 study only.
Yes.
Consideration, item 7, consideration of resolution 2012-40, resolution to approve the standard reclaimed water use agreement and to authorize the Water Management Department Director to enter into such agreements with reclaimed water customers without prior approval by the Board of Mayor and Aldermen. Mr. Parker, again.
This is, as it says, we've drafted a standard agreement for, and this is mainly for the big users of the reclaimed water, and it's the reason it's so involved. It's similar to what you have as far as water and sewer service, in that people sign up for. It's a standard type thing. But here, as you're well aware, we have issues that we have to make sure that we can serve, that we know how much we're going to have to serve under specific conditions, and what we can do should we not be able to serve, et cetera. So it's something that we have gone through with the draft. We have had reviewed by the law department as far as legal aspects concerned, and not the content itself, but just the legal aspects, which is okay. We had, Vernon had sent this out to one development group. When they commented back to us, we did accept some of the comments. We did reject numerous comments that they had asked for, that we felt to protect the city, that we needed to keep it more of a standard and us having more control on what happened. So we're bringing this to you. I know it's recent and you haven't maybe had a lot of time to look at it, but it's something we need to get set up. And we set it up, we're asking for it to be set up to where the director of the Water Management Department can enter into these agreements, because he's the one that's going to be making the decisions. He's going to be getting the information, making the decisions on what the particular people would be doing or need to do. So
I did alter this a little bit to make it the water director and the city administrator. So
did you?
that title says one, but the memo says
okay.
both of us. I thought that was appropriate to
What is the
put me in the
possibility
mix
of
there too.
someone not being approved? I mean, someone being approved, someone else not. What would be the reasoning for that? I mean,
not able to serve.
Capacity, really, it really would
Money.
be realistic
Well, I
capacity.
mean, it's like,
Or just.
I mean, it's similar to our sanitary sewer if it's not available. Having the capacity, or something like that. That would be the main
That's where I see
reasons.
potential.
I mean, we're wanting to, of course, get it out there. It's going to come a point we cannot serve anymore. I mean, because we just can't put that much out there on a continuous basis or whatever. It could come to that point. We'd hope it'd come to that point. But we've got to have the safeguards of when we can cut them off, et cetera. But then also we have to, what we've got set up in here is minimum bills based on what they would normally need for their service to help us pay for the system. So that's where we are on it.
Do they pay the minimum even if they don't use it?
Yes, ma'am. Just like we pay the minimum if we don't use the water from Harpeth Valley.
Okay, but if it has to be available. If it's available and they don't use it, they still pay the availability.
If it's not available, they wouldn't be paying. No, it's set up to where it can be prorated based on if we have to cut them off for
Yeah,
certain
I
length of time,
realize that.
stuff like that's part of what we've gone back and entered into.
Well, I think that is good, because who else would know whether or not it was available besides you and who is it, Mark?
Mark.
Well, right now it's
Yeah.
Mark.
Mark.
Well, whoever.
Right now it's me.
And right now it's could change tomorrow. I mean,
Yeah, I think my concern would mostly have been, making sure we have a fairness about it and not consistent with,
Yeah.
not to.
well, actually, it's not to the city's advantage not to be fair with it, because we're trying to get
This
as much of
saves
this
us,
out there
yeah.
as we can.
Alderman Peterson.
Okay, I appreciate your comment about the fairness.
Yeah.
That was a question that I had. Right now, when we're talking about available, we really mean we have a pipe that we can get out.
We can get it to you.
Yes, that's right.
Yeah.
It's not like anything else. But I do think there will come a point where, we will have more requests than we have this. And that may be, a good thing, because we're trying to do this, and it certainly cuts down on the treated water that we would have to have available. But I do think we need to look down the road and think that there can be a time where there might be competing interests, who want this. And in that sense, I couldn't quite understand, is there any timeliness why it should not just come before the Board of Mayor and Alderman?
What do we know about it? What would we know about the availability of it?
Well, I would like the openness that we know who has been chosen.
That what?
The openness that we will know who has been chosen, as
Oh,
opposed...
you mean to receive it?
Yes, that's right. That's who's been chosen to receive it. Because, as I say, right now, anybody that asks, we're going to say yes, But I think there will come a time, and it's been alluded to here, when there may be more people wanting it than we have capacity or location, really, right now. That's a lot of it, too. And so as I say, is there any reason why it shouldn't just come before the Board of Mayor and Alderman? I mean, there's not any kind of time constraint. Now, a lot of times there is a time constraint. You know, you've got to do something in a timely manner, otherwise it would be a problem. But I can't imagine that this would be something where there would have to be a time constraint, that if it took a month to get the Board of Mayor and Alderman to approve it, or even 2 weeks, you know, I can't think that would matter.
Maybe a different approach would be the ones who did not receive it, who was turned down. Maybe that's the list you may be more interested in down the
Well,
road. I don't know.
No, I mean, as I say, I don't see any,
Yes,
I just
yes,
couldn't
yes.
quite see, I like the idea of a standard contract. I think that's very good. But, I mean, you know, whenever we're into a contract, you know, I think if it's a contract, a lot of times we need to, that it needs to be a public item if it's going to be a contract. And the other thing is, also, I read through this, but you know it's a contract, so I'm not sure I knew as much about it as I should. However, the business about what our obligations are. I can remember a number of years ago, whenever we signed a contract where we had obligations to put sewer in a place, and if we didn't get it there, we were going to have to do pump and all. I mean, so it's you know, it's that type of thing where I'd like to know more about what the obligations of the city for this contract. Whenever the contract is there, then I'd like to hear more about that. But the main thing I was concerned about was that it would be a public transaction, I guess I'd say, and that means it comes before the Board of Mayor and Alderman. But also, if it's a contract, I think the board generally needs to know what that is.
I would move that we approve this, maybe go to the full board if there's
I second.
concerns.
I second.
Do you want us to put this on a work session, or do you want us to put this on new business, or?
Put it on new business. Put it on
Old
new
business?
business for the
Okay.
board. You don't need it on a work session. We can discuss that.
Okay.
Proper motion and a second. Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 8, consideration of the professional services agreement, City of Franklin contract number 2012-0116 with Alfred Benish
Yes.
and Company for the Long Lane Bridge over I-65 project in an amount not to exceed cost of $324,725.
Yeah, I might want to recuse myself on this one, but
I got to go out.
this,
to the next one.
You're in it.
this is a design contract that's being proposed for design of the crossing of I-65 from Long Lane to Old Paynesville Road. If you remember, several years ago, we looked at this and we were looking at trying to do an underpass. We've met with TDOT. We met with TDOT to try to get this included into the widening project that they're going to start pretty soon with the I-65 in that general area. And this is a project that is on our major thoroughfare plan. We met with TDOT, and in discussions that we've had, and we being the three of us right here actually, and the discussions we had with TDOT is the abilities for us to be able to go to an underpass is going to be quite extensive work without any guarantee that TDOT would even approve it. We were going to have to go through and do a financial evaluation of what it did. It was going to require us to have to alter the environmental approval for the widening project, which would delay for sure delay the widening project, and we don't know how much time that would be. So we've gone back and looked at, well, although it wasn't our first option or our preferred option is to look at an overpass, because we still need to be concerned of getting this connection across in that general area. So we're looking at this, and the reason we're looking at it right now is with the I-65 widening project, if we can get the design completed to a point that TDOT will feel comfortable for going on and constructing the pier in the middle of the interstate. It will save us money in the long run because that pier would be in place. and we would not have to do all the traffic control, all the rerouting of traffic, closing of lanes during the time of construction for that particular pier, et cetera. The pier itself is a minor cost, even compared to the design, total design. It's estimated it's estimated to be probably quite a bit less than $100,000 even. So, but to get to the point of where they could construct it, we have to have I think, final design of the bridge crossing itself. So that's the reason we're coming to you with this at this point, is for being able to ease of construction, cost of future construction, et cetera, when we finally do get to the point. We know we're not ready to build the overpass or the crossing, and we also know that even the design has not been budgeted, but we're coming to you with that request for getting this done. I will let Mr. Stuckey address where this money may come from, if he can.
Well, we'd really just have to amend to provide for this in our budget. It's a unique opportunity with the TDOT project going on to save dollars longer term. If you're ever going to do this, it would be money well spent at this point to do it. And it's in your major thoroughfare plan. I don't know how committed the board is to seeing this through, but it does give you some connectivity you don't have from west to east side over the interstate, which has some real benefits. So if there's a real interest in doing it, this is a good way to move that forward. I don't know that we can exactly assess for you the cost savings. We really can't put an exact number on there, but I would say that is pretty significant. And having done it ahead of time, having it be essentially incorporated into part of what TDOT does in plans when they do the widening. So if you're serious about doing it, this is the time to step up and get the design done and make it possible. If you're not serious about doing it, then I guess you don't spend the money at all, and you just abandon that option for connectivity down the line, which I think long term is something you're going to want to look at more closer build out of the city. This would be a connection that would be very beneficial.
One other aspect of this is on the west side is the Berry Farms project, Rural Plains. And since we would be changing from an underpass, which we had been looking at before, this actually overpass actually encroaches on their particular project a little bit more, and with a design, then we could get all that aspect worked out before they do any final design or construction of their project. So we get everything set up prior to having problems in the future.
We sure don't want to come in later and take somebody's property to do this.
And we've run this exhibit by the developer, and they've indicated that they feel that they can work with us up front if we can get some of this information figured out to be able to help not impact their future commercial building, their parking lot layout. They're not at a point where they've done all that work yet, and they've indicated that they'd be able to work with us to try to make this
They
work.
probably aren't the only property owners that are involved in this.
They are on the west side.
Okay, who's on the
but
east side?
On the east side is a vacant piece of property that we actually had an appraisal for to purchase years ago, and the county is interested in that piece of property to add
To the ag center.
add to the ag center.
Won't be vacant
And
long.
well, maybe not, but yeah, probably will with the cost that it is, but.
And Berry Farms actually has an approved concept plan, and that's another reason why we're trying to coordinate with them early with this alignment.
How do we come up with the cost, the 324? How is that
That is a proposal from the from the consultant as to what it would cost to get that design done. Yeah. Based on, it's the same way we always do those costs. And there is a representative from them here if there's any specific questions you might want to ask.
Is that you? A little harder.
I don't have any
Yeah, I don't
questions.
have questions.
I guess the one thing is, if we want to go back to point A and say how serious are we on this particular project at $324,000 for design, When if you go half a mile down the road or less, the state's gonna build a new overpass anyway. So, when you start looking at that kind of cost and that kind of overall project, and we're building an overpass, and it's, what, half a mile, less?
Yes, it is, but when you have full development down there, and it's just kind of like the Baker's Bridge, et cetera, it's sort of the equivalent of that. And the other thing to keep in mind is you do have the fire station that's going to be built in Rural Plains, and when that is built out, the potential for blockage of the traffic on the one overpass or the one crossing is pretty great, or it could happen that would create problems should they need to get to the other side of the interstate. So that's part of the all the overall planning, et cetera, that's been looked at is all this. And I mean, that's something to weigh. I understand that there are concerns with that. But
One thing I'd add
And
is,
again, that's what I'm saying to you,
You're
is you
Yeah.
tell us that.
Right.
Is it gonna be a Baker Bridge type of?
It's not gonna be that wide of a bridge, it's gonna be more of a two-lane road with sidewalks and bike path, or bike lanes and stuff, but it's not gonna be a 5-lane
No,
facility.
it won't, yeah.
It provides the same kind of connectivity. I think that's what we're comparing.
Yes, to answer your
that's what
question,
we-
it is just a crossing of the interstate, a second, because there's only one in this whole area.
non-interchange
From
crossing.
96 to 840, there's the Goose Creek crossing.
I was going to also add that there are multiple signals that the state has approved on Goose Creek as well. I don't recall the exact number, but there are multiple signals that they're proposing there.
And I just wanted to add that, when we were talking about redoing the Goose Creek overpass, there was a lot of concern of city residents on the east side of 65 about access, about how it would be hindered and how if they had to take the long way around and not have access through there, it would add 30 minutes to a trip or something. So if we're serious and the east side of 65 and South Carruthers is going to be the next big development, we need to go ahead and plan for this so we're not behind the traffic and the congestion and things. Because north of 96, I think there's 5 ways within the city limits to get across east and west 65. And here, there's nothing till Goose Creek from 96 side.
TDOT has also indicated that they could get this in their widening project too, if we were able to get it designed
So they'll
in a
build
timely manner, yes.
They would incorporate that.
They would build it.
They would
Pay for
incorporate it, no,
They
they
would
would
incorporate
incorporate
for
it,
it.
they haven't said they'd pay for it. They
No.
said they could incorporate the pier in their project,
The pier, not the overpass.
not the overpass, just the pier.
That you would then build whenever that time came, that we were able to fund the construction and time was right to do it.
And we've
for
already
us.
said the pier is less than 100,000.
Yeah, it's
Yeah,
That's what I was
around
gonna-
50, I think,
Yeah.
50,000.
That's
the
our
number I
rough
remember.
estimate, but, yeah.
Cost $325,000 to design a
A pe-
20 or 50 or $100,000 pier.
Because you got to know all the other
Got to have the
know
geometry
all
and
that.
locations, yeah.
TDOT's gonna want to have the alignment set, they're gonna want a final set of bridge plans. And this is approximately a 400-foot long bridge. So it's a large, long bridge, because it's crossing roughly 10 lanes of interstate, plus it is also spanning Old Peytonsville on the west side.
Yeah.
So that Old Peytonsville stays where it is today. So it's approximately a 400-foot long bridge to get across those.
For the minutes, I'm sure.
A minute later to hear.
So tell her your name.
Sammy McCoy with Alfred Benish and Company.
The initial estimates we had before for this particular crossing, if I'm not mistaken, was somewhere around 4, maybe up to 4.
I think it was around 5.5 million.
Okay, 5.5 million,
Yes.
okay. That would be for the construction aspects of it.
That was in 07 to 08.
So
when
those are
originally
numbers that
those
will
da-
be going up. I thought you might need that information too.
Put it in context of what the whole picture might be.
So normally the design contract is, what have we said in the past? What percentage of the project?
Depending on the project, but it usually comes in somewhere between 7 to 12, 13%.
Percent. Okay.
We have had projects more than 13%, but that's typically your smaller projects.
So back to the financing part.
Comes out of the alderman's salary.
It'd take a long time to pay for that.
That's one that would never get done.
Notice I said good because it said Alderman.
Mayor pay.
That'd cut several hundred years off to take the mayor's salary.
Well,
We would have to really look
Continue
and
on
see
with
that.
it. That's my position, but you need to come back and tell us where the $324,000 is coming from. I'm not saying it's not needed, that road and that bridge may very well be needed,
Yeah.
but you're really not cutting those people off when they can go north or south. If you were looking at South Carruthers to be built, they go north to 96, they come back down to the Goose Creek and get on the interstate and go either way they want to go. You know, I don't know where we are on South Carruthers necessarily.
That'll be coming to you soon.
All right.
well, I'm gonna take the high road because I think, as that area develop, we're gonna wish we had done this.
So
I think we need to move forward.
if you want to continue it on, do you want to put it on the next agenda as a new business for more discussion, and then looking at where the monies would come from? We'd have that, I guess we can have that information. I mean, we didn't want to go forward too much without some kind of feedback from you, so that's the reason.
You're not getting negative feedback, I
Right,
don't think so.
understand, okay.
Could we have it on the work session also?
Work session?
We can do that. Yeah.
Do that.
More discussion.
Sure.
Okay, yeah,
So-
yeah,
So you want
that's
to
probably
just,
appropriate,
so
just
you
put it
want-
on the work session.
How about can we have time to do it on work session only and then do it first meeting in August? Or,
Because the money discussion may come up.
Well, yeah, I understand that, but we're getting close to the point of needing to get pretty going on with it if we're going to do it because of the timing for the widening project and having it to TDOT in time, et cetera.
We could do both that time.
we could do both. If we could do it two separate
Can
meetings,
we-
it gives us a little
Yeah.
breathing room, but I don't know.
I don't,
If we put it on both, and then if we can find out maybe a little bit more information from TDOT, if we can pull
We'll
it off.
schedule it both, and if we need,
That may be the right.
put it on the work session. You brought it to the committee. The committee generally has been receptive to that and the idea, and the fact that it's probably at some point in time, the next 10 or 15 years is going to be needed. If you have all 8 of the aldermen will have a chance to have additional input into it, and you may have some more information also. And part of that information will be where that $324,000 is coming from.
this gives us a little more to work from. Thank you.
Thank you.
I move that we move this to the
Work session,
work section.
7:24 work session.
7:24 work session.
Second?
All, proper motion second, all in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Item 9, consideration, and Margaret will be excused from this, Alderman Martin. Consideration of Amendment 2 to the professional engineering service with Smith, Seckman and Reed. City of Franklin contract number 2012-0115 in an amount not to exceed $14,750 for the Hillsborough Road project.
This is just what it says as an amendment, second amendment to the contract with Smith, Seckman, Reed for the water sewer and relocations, et cetera, for the Hillsborough Road project. One additional thing that we're looking at on this is we have approved to look at the I don't know, West Main Sewer, I guess is what we're calling it, rehabilitation, and this will add some work for the Hillsborough Road to make sure we get all that tie-in correctly, et cetera. So, but it's also just from added coordination, roadway design changes for Hillsborough Road. So we feel this is an appropriate amendment to this contract to get this work, get this work completed for the relocations of our water and sewer on that project.
So we are adding the new design, the new coordination needs.
Yes, well, the part of it, the coordination needs and roadway design things are not necessarily all us. It's things from TDOT or it's things from some of the other utilities, et cetera. But the coordination with the West Main sewer rehabilitation is because that we are doing, and we have contracted to do this West Main sewer rehabilitation. We got to make sure that we get that all coordinated in together, et cetera. So yes and no, but that's.
Move approval.
Second.
Proper motion. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Item 10. Amendment consideration, the consideration of Amendment 2 to the professional engineering service with SEI, contract number 201100059 in an amount not to exceed $00 for the Hillsborough Road project.
This is to.
That's a beaut.
This is to straighten up how some of the work that's being done. Some work that was contracted to be done is not going to need to be done, and there's other work that does need to be done that was not contracted, and I'm going to turn this over to Paul.
There was some environmental noise and air studies that TDOT typically requires. We budgeted to do that within their professional services agreement. They weren't needed, but TDOT asked for a few additional environmental type reports. So we worked with them with the existing budget, really just to straighten it out, straighten the contract out so we knew what the final deliverables were. At this point, it's at no additional cost because we're working within that budget. So this essentially straightens out the professional services agreement.
Move approval.
Second.
I just had one question. You know, since we divided this into two pieces, are we going to be able to separate any of the non-road parts of this thing? I don't want to say the ornamental parts, but you know, we talked about whenever we were looking at this and Third Avenue that at one point we were going to try to bid some of the extras separately, and then we found out that if we were going to use TDOT, we couldn't do that. How is that anywhere still possible in here?
As far as the way it's being set up right now is that we do have the line items. I mean, it is a unit price type bid. So we will have line items that will designate what is being done, et cetera, that could be looked at that time. We have not, at this point, looked at bidding anything as an alternate or whatever concerning it because, excuse me, because this was an approved streetscape project. So we haven't felt that, or we didn't think that we needed to do that. Let me rephrase that.
Well, we even went to the board on specific components of streetscape elements in this project that we got direction on.
I thought we were told that because of TDOT,
that was on Third
We're talking about
Avenue.
Third Avenue.
Oh,
On
okay.
Hillsborough,
It was
we had a specific review with the board, and we got some direction on what design components should
Right.
be in where and that whole thing. So that's what we're bidding.
Right.
But on Third Avenue, we can't do the alternate?
If there's 1 cent of state or federal funding in it, you cannot bid alternates. And what they're concerned about is us handpicking contractors is their main concern.
Well, what's on Third Avenue? That's the state.
There's we have an enhancement grant for around $650,000
But
for multi-use trail.
that's for the trail, and that's going to be totally separate, isn't it?
It is, but some of the enhancement features that'll be built with it are the wall, some of the overlooked items that was approved by the planning commission as far as the master plan goes for the park. So it'd really be something that we would need to get a decision for prior to actually bidding it out.
Well, as I say, I thought we were told that we could not separate the parts to it. And now I read in some of this that the trails, which now I'm understanding are the parts that have the state money, is going to be separate from the road.
Yeah, for Third Avenue North, the trail system is part of the enhancement grant with the overlooks and everything
So that's where the
else.
state money comes
That's
in.
where the
And so
enhancement
that's
is.
why we were,
That's why we're bidding that as a whole,
as a whole for the parks.
that part.
Okay. So on the other part, though, we're still not able to bid to the alternates?
As far as the state's concerned, with Hillsborough Road, there's one section that does have state federal funding in it that you will not be able to do any alternates for.
Oh, I'm talking about Third Avenue.
For the roadway portion
That's
of it?
right.
It has been separated out. I'll say that we're actively going through the bidding process now to be able to, it will be a city contract there would be I guess there may be a possibility to look at removing things from the contract, but the contractor would have that option to come back and say that he bid it a certain way and would want additional money. We did just have the pre-bid meeting for that yesterday, and are planning to bid that out in the next 3 weeks to move that project forward.
But really, the earlier comments to us saying that we would not be able to do bid alternates really no longer exist. Is that right? The reasons that we could not do bid alternates?
For the city portion of it, that is correct.
Well, I wish somebody had told us that. You know what I'm trying to say? I know you're very far along now.
Yeah, most of the enhancement features,
Are in
like the
the
overlook and everything
other
else, that, I guess my understanding of what was the concern was these overlooks and the Belvedere wall and this trail was all, and the whole Point Park
Well, let me also say
part of
too,
that
all those
grant.
special parking places on the side and actually the wall on the road don't have anything to do with the trails. So as I say, I'm kind of disappointed that we were told many months ago, maybe even a year or so, that we could not do bid alternates, and now I'm finding out we really could have.
Well, you're told that because that was true at the time, because it was one project.
So-
And what we've done to expedite both Hillsborough and Third Avenue North Extension is do a state-funded component and a local-funded component so that we can bid the local-funded more expeditiously. So that's what's there.
But then I didn't understand that meant, though, that we couldn't do bid alternates, because I had asked about that earlier, and now that I'm finding out, since it's been divided into two parts, where the parks are really the part that are getting the state funding and had the
trail.
requirement that we couldn't have bid alternates, now I'm finding out we really could have bid alternates.
I guess the one thing that I would say is a lot of, like I said, the enhancement features do have the federal funding in it. With the federal funding with the trail system will not spend that money. We were forced to put these enhancement overlooks, the walls, in that contract to make sure that we spend as many dollars as we can to capture that $650,000. As far as the roadway plans go, it is mainly the infrastructure that we're putting in, the lights, the roadway, the water line, the sewer line is going to be the majority. The bridge will be the majority of that cost.
Well, as I say, I'm really, because I was told before that we did not have the opportunity to do the bid alternates, and now I find out we could. As I say, I'm kind of disappointed to find that out, because it could have been something that we could have looked at, and something that I was very interested in.
We do have a motion on item 10. There is a second. Any other discussion? All in favor indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any other opposition? Item 11, consideration of Resolution 2012-41, a resolution authorizing condemnation for the acquisition of property for the McEwen Drive temporary connector road.
This is the resolution. It is our typical resolution that to go to condemnation, but we would only do it should we have to, and then it also gives the city engineer and city attorney the abilities to negotiate with landowners even after condemnation, and as long as it's within budget to settle those
I
condemnations.
so move.
Second.
Proper motion second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any specific streets project status reports?
I would like to give a quick update, and if there's any questions, we can go ahead and address those. Hillsborough Road, right now, we have 38 offers out. We just got the plans in, and we did our review of the plans, sent them back to the consultant, and we're actively coordinating a final utility coordination meeting and preparing to submit plans here in the very near future to TDOT for review and approval. So we're making progress and still pushing to meet that November bid date. Third Avenue North, we just had the pre-bid meeting. We're looking at bidding that project at the end of the month, so we're looking forward to receiving those bids and bringing those back sometime in August to present to the board.
Great.
And then Mr. Suki pointed out that Eastern Flank Battlefield's not on this list, but I do want to point out that the plans are 95% complete. We've submitted to TDOT, we've submitted right away. We're still on track to bid that one in November and working really hard to get that through the local programs process. If there are any other,
That's the road in
That's the loop road, the access road. And that really, that's in TDOT's court to finish up the right-of-way
TDOT's court.
authorization piece. And we've done all we can do there, and then, like Paul said, targeting that to bid in November, and we estimate that's about a 9-month construction period. So that gets us done around, August next, well, no, a year and 2 months ahead.
And in Mac Hatcher extension, there is no additional information that we know of concerning the funding or anything like that. So we're still on hold, waiting on TDOT to.
Are they getting back to us on terms of the
We have not
re-examining elements of the
We have not heard
project?
from them. We have not received the traffic study that they were going to have, that they authorized to do as far as the roundabout and change it, et cetera. We have not received anything concerning that. We have not received any word concerning what they may want to take out of the contract or anything like that. So we're still in a waiting pattern on that, and as soon as we hear anything, we will try to get it settled and then get back to you on what's going on.
Did we ask them to change the roundabout?
No, ma'am, that's something that they were wanting to look into.
They approached us.
They are funding this traffic study to see about changing the roundabout.
They've asked us to look at both the roundabout and other elements of the project that can essentially value engineer the cost down a little bit. And we said, we're open to that discussion, but we also want to follow it back through a public dialogue, because some of those elements came out of a public dialogue, and they were very understanding of that. But we said, but we've already spent our money on design, the design you told us to do. So any other costs associated with that is on TDOT, and they've agreed that that's the case, but we're waiting to hear back on all of that.
Can I make one request? Whenever they have a public hearing on that, please ask them not to put that time in conflict with one of our other meetings. I think 2 of the public hearings that TDOT has had recently have been on the same night that the planning commission was meeting. And please ask them to.
Sure.
I don't think there'll be a problem for them.
Right.
It's just that we need to say, please don't put it in
Well,
conflict. with
And we're going to schedule, our assumption is
It'll be
we're
up.
scheduling that with them. I mean, we're doing that scheduling, it's not them.
But I
But that
know
was-
2 other
yeah.
times they have.
Right.
Sure.
Well, when we went through that CSS project with TDOT on that, we make sure we scheduled away from all of our meetings.
That thing, the last one that they had on that capture was on the night of the planning commission.
The widening part, you know?
The one that they had over, I've forgotten where it was.
That was the Goose
But I
Creek
know-
interchange.
Goose Creek
Yeah.
interchange, yeah.
And honestly, the way,
We can do that.
There was another
All right,
one on
all right,
that
okay.
capture.
Guys, all you gotta do is schedule when there's not
Yeah.
another meeting here.
Yeah, and we're on that.
13, water management project status report, anyone?
I just want to say we're withdrawing from the river as of noon today.
Outstanding. Fill that reservoir back up.
Yep, we're pumping as fast
And
as
the rain
we're able
barrel's
to.
full.
Could you go back to the public work facility?
Yeah.
Is
Yes.
that road work been done?
it's, what you're seeing out there is it's actually a private development. They're fulfilling their part of the agreement. They were going to do the entrance.
That's their responsibility, though, we agreed.
Where we're at with the project is we just acquired the one easement across the street for the signal. We're waiting on Lasco's reviewing some of our easements now. As soon as they approve our easements, we're essentially almost ready to bid and saying August, and we're making assumptions that we're going to have the right-of-way and agreements in place to move that forward.
Moving on.
Item 14, stormwater project status report. Any?
Questions?
We're glad to have you.
Paul, take a look behind you.
Is that who we need to?
Is
Smith.
that,
Are you Susan Smith? Yes, this is Susan Smith. I'm sorry, I had not met her.
Do-
So can do on the phone.
does the committee wish to go back very briefly to item 4?
Want to allow
I-
her to make
I don't-
comments? I mean,
If she
can
wants to
still make
comment, but I
comments,
want to
just like
withdraw
we'll
my
be open.
motion.
Well, I'm not saying you withdraw your motion. Now,
She can make comments.
I'll tell you what the motion was to deny the extra SFU. So if you want to address that, or if you want to get back with the engineering group and understand what the comments were, you're more than welcome to do that. But you have one now, availability, but you were not granted the second one. Sure.
I'd like to apologize for being late. I walked in as 5 was being announced when my father's in hospice, and I did not leave it in a timely manner. I have the 5-acre piece on Clovercroft, and what I want to do is subdivide it into a 3-acre piece and a 2-acre piece. That wasn't my original intent, but I got into the cost and figured that it would probably be better if I let my daughter build on half and me on the other half. So I initially put in a request for 1 unit, but I'd like to have another one. The process of subdividing is kind of chicken or the egg. Before I can go to the county and get it subdivided, I need water availability, and then if I get water availability, I'm really going to be working through Franklin. I am willing to, I'm sorry, sewer availability, yeah. I am willing to annex, provided that if that's what I need to do. Provided.
Have that information.
I think, yeah.
Yeah, and Paul did stress the importance of me being here. And so if I'm willing to annex, providing that I can subdivide, I already have one. But if I can get it subdivided through, I guess, would be Franklin at this point, and have 2 residences, then I am willing to annex both of the lots if it is
Guys, I think she
subdivided.
needs to get with y'all, and you need to tell her what steps she needs to go through.
Okay.
But probably if she's gonna do 2, she's probably gonna need annexation. I don't know what the board's gonna do, but I see heads shaking most everywhere, and there's only a couple of aldermen that's not here. So you're probably looking at annexation. Once the annexation comes up, you request the number of sewer taps that you need and how you want to divide that, and that'll go before the planning commission. But it'll be a fairly lengthy process for you. Okay?
Yeah.
Is that fair enough?
Yep.
Just-
The next few days, but I'll give you.
Paul can
walk you through that
get it walked
process.
through and bring in the planning department as needed.
Last item on the agenda, adjournment.
So moved.
Proper motion, second. All in favor indicate by saying aye. Aye.
She's right next to the city.